let's talk and catch up about my reading. Shall I? I thought I'd do a 6-month update on how I've been getting on, where I'm at, and how I'm doing with my year's challenge. If you guys don't know, I'm planning to read 52 books this year. I don't have the actual dates of when I finished them right to hand, but so far this year I have read 14 books. And if you are aware of how many weeks we are into the year, we are not 14 weeks into the year. No, we're much further ahead than that. I'm actually 11 books behind in my journey. I'm actually quite behind, but let's get into that a little bit. So, let's start at the beginning. So, of course, at the very beginning of the year, I read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is a book that I grew up with. It was in my family home, and I'm not even sure. I think it may be mine, it may be my brother's, it may be just our family's. I'm not too sure, but I thought I would read it because it was a book that came up in a book club thing on Goodreads. It was a lot different. I don't even remember actually reading it originally. I must have been far too young, or just didn't really take it in, or I had the book but I never read it, because that does happen. Everyone knows that's a thing that happens. How it was kind of like a murder mystery, but also had some like real home truths about him and his family. It was quite sad as well, but anyway, I read that in January. Then we had the Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel, which I think is one of my favourite books so far of this year. I absolutely loved the Book of Lost Names. I felt like the writing was a little bit bad, and it was a little bit repetitive, like she'd lost kind of how to describe certain things, because she just kept saying the same thing every now and again. But also it was quite stupid as well, like why did she make these actions when she could have, like, I don't know, it was just very stupid. I've also read Charlotte's Web by Evie White. This is, again, another book that I have probably read before, but have completely forgotten about it. It wasn't my favourite. I didn't really like how it's written, but I guess it's more towards younger people. It was a cute little book, but not one of my favourites. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is a Hercule Poirot book by Agatha Christie. I love that. I actually love Agatha Christie in general, so I was going to be down for this book completely. I love an Agatha Christie murder mystery. I'm not a huge fan of murder mysteries in general, especially if they're kind of more on the scary side. So I feel like Agatha Christie does it in a way that it's not scary, and like you can read it fine. Then we had 100 Years of Solitude, which took me absolutely forever to read. This is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I think I started this in like January and I finished it in March. It doesn't tell me the dates. It doesn't tell me the exact date that I started reading it, but 100 Years of Solitude was a long book. It took me a while to get through it. It was very complicated to read, as it's basically based on this entire family, and they all have the same name because they are, like, is it Mexican descent or Spanish descent, and they always have the same name going down the family, and so you kind of get very confused of who you're following, which I think is kind of on the point. That's the point of the book, is that you're not meant to understand that completely. It's very confusing, but I did eventually finish it, and I was very happy to finish it. Then we have Yellowface by R.K. Kwong. That is a book based on an author where her bestie dies, and she takes her bestie's book that she was writing at the time. They're both authors. She takes her bestie's book and basically creates a fake profile of herself and releases the book, even though it was definitely her bestie's book. Yeah, I felt again, I was kind of underwhelmed by the ending of this book. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, because that is by L. Frank Baum. Everyone knows what The Wizard of Oz is. I'd never actually read the book before, but I decided to read the book and I was pleasantly surprised. There were some details in there that obviously don't translate into the film, so it was kind of fun to see like what the originals were to what was then created in the film. Then I remember this actually because I was in Amsterdam when I read this, The Importance of Being Earnest, which is a play, which I didn't actually know was a play until I started reading it. I read this in like 2 days. It's by Oscar Wilde, and yeah, I want to kind of see the play. I want to see the play now. Now that I've read the book, I want to see the play to kind of see it in action, because I feel like it doesn't really give the same vibes when you're just reading from a script. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite funny. It was comedy. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus was the next book I read, and that I got for Christmas, and I read it again within a week, I think. And this is basically based in like the 1950s. The woman is a chemist or a scientist who then goes on to, she gets fired from her job and then she moves on to somehow being a presenter of a TV show called Supper at 6. I think that's what it's called. And it's basically aimed towards housewives and them being able to cook food. And it's very sciencey, which I didn't really vibe with, but I actually really enjoyed the book. And the dog had like its own thoughts being shared as well as the main character, which I thought was quite fun. I actually really enjoyed this book. I rate it highly in this year's books. Then we had The Giver by Lois Lowry, which I've forgotten what the book is about. That book was about, it was kind of like they were set in like a place where they were all very controlled and they had to take pills to be controlled. And this boy, was it a boy or was it a girl? I think it was a boy. He kind of realised that it was kind of being faked. Again, it wasn't one of my favourite books, but yeah. Then I read Animal Farm by George Orwell. Okay, so this book is very famous. I didn't really like it. I know it's meant to be characters based in real life and like people who were part of the war, but again, just was not my cup of tea. So I have to say I kind of rushed myself reading through this book to say that I finished it and read it, because it wasn't what I really wanted to read at that time. Then I read The Phantom of the Opera, which is by Gaston Leroux. This is actually the last book I've finished like physically instead of like an audiobook. We'll go to that. Phantom of the Opera. I absolutely love this book. I think this is one of my favourite books I've read this year. So that's, I think, 3 books this year that I've loved so far. I actually, for the first time ever, started tabbing a book, and I did it to Phantom of the Opera, and my book is so tabbed out now. It's insane. I really enjoyed reading that book, and I've never actually seen the musical, which is insane. But I've seen like clips of it obviously on TV. I've got the soundtrack that I've listened to. I've just never actually seen the opera or the musical, so I really want to see that at some point, just to say that I now understand it. But yeah, it was a really, really good book. I definitely recommend that one. The other 2 books that I have finished this year are audiobooks. The first one is called I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. She is the actress who was in the, is it Nickelodeon or was it Disney? The iCarly series and then the Sam and Cat series. I think it was on Nickelodeon. She wrote a book basically about how she grew up, like it's an autobiography basically, about how she was treated at home growing up from her mum in particular. It wasn't a very nice way to grow up, with her mum being very demanding and like harassing her, just not being a mother, you know what I mean? Anyway, her mum died of I think breast cancer in 2013, and basically it kind of goes from her growing up in the 90s to the 2000s to her being on all these shows and these movies, and then post her mum's death to her growing up and kind of her coming through to the other side where she's kind of more healthy now and really well. Why she's kind of quit acting, which honestly I am not surprised that she quit acting, because that was one hell of a life to go through as a child or a teenager. And then the final book that I have finished this year, and I listened to actually today, I finished it today, is Beyond the Wand from Tom Felton. And he is obviously Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter. And it kind of goes through his life and like the battles that he had with like alcohol and drugs and things like that as well, which was also really interesting because I had no idea about this at all. So I really enjoyed listening to that, and I listened to that during my work as well. It was very eye-opening for sure. So those are the 14 books that I have finished so far this year in 2024. The books that I'm currently reading, I'm still currently reading The Way We Live Now, I'm still currently reading War and Peace, and I'm nearly finishing my next, probably my next 5-star book of this year, and that is The Seven Sisters. I kind of paused reading for like the last month because I'm hoping next week that I get the next books in The Seven Sisters. So I've only got the first book. I'm kind of hoping for my birthday that I get the rest of the series, because I really want to read them, but I want to read them like one after the other. So I kind of paused reading until I get that, because I was like, well, I want to read. I don't want to start another book and then have to wait to read it after I've received these books. So I am currently slowly going through Seven Sisters, and we'll see how it goes. And The Seven Sisters, if you don't know, it's an 8-book series, 7 sisters, and then the final one follows their dad. And all 7 sisters are adopted. It's basically set after their dad dies, and each sister is given a clue to where they really came from, and then the sisters each go on their adventures to find out who they truly are. And the first one is so fascinating. So the first one follows Maya, who is from Brazil. She's of Brazilian descent, and she goes there and finds out about her family. And it kind of has like a split timeline of Maya, current time, which was in 2007, mixed with like 50 years beforehand with her grandmother and how she came to be, because without this story she would not have been here. Kind of sets you into 2 different timelines. It's fascinating. Anyway, I'm really enjoying it, and so I really want to read the rest of the books, so I'm kind of holding out a little bit on reading until then, and then I'll probably be able to finish them like super quickly, because if I wasn't stalling reading this book, I would have probably finished this book in like 3 days. That's how good it is. And it's like a 700-page book, and so it's quite a long one. So yeah, that's where we're at. I have a lot of books to catch up on. I do not know how I'm going to find the time to do this. I don't have enough time booked off this year to read so many books. I don't quite know how I'm going to do it, but wish me luck, guys. I need to catch up on 11 books that I'm behind. Like, there we go. There's the proof. And these are all the books that I have finished so far this year. So there we go. That is my short and sweet update on what I'm reading and where I'm at. And there we go. That is my update. That is where I'm at. Alright, hi gang. I'm just editing this video now, and that is where it cuts off. I don't think I realised that this video got cut off when I was filming, because my camera did not tell me it stopped filming. But anyway, that is where I am at. I am pretty pleased with where I'm at. I've read more books this year than I have last year, So I think I read like 6 or 7 last year. I can't quite remember, but it was definitely less than this one. So pleasantly surprised at how many I've read so far. I've definitely exceeded my expectations. Even though I am behind in my challenge, I am okay with that. Like, I wasn't fully expecting to be able to complete this challenge, but I'm still going to try my hardest to try and catch up, whether that's going to be like some shorter novels, like to try and speed it through, I don't quite know yet, or if I really do a lot more challenges on here, like maybe doing 24 hours of reading or more, swapping my screen time for reading. We'll see. I quite like doing those challenges. I enjoyed doing it in the past, so we're definitely going to bring them back in the future. But I'm going to end the video here now. I hope you guys enjoyed, and give me some book recommendations. What should I read? I've got 5 or 6 months left of this challenge, so I have plenty of books that I need to complete. So yeah, let me know if you have any book recommendations. They should be like classic books that everyone has read, but I haven't read. You get my gist. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do, is read a lot of books that I haven't read before. I'm trying to not reread as much, though I probably will reread some books just to try and push me along, because there are books that I absolutely adore and I know I can finish in like 2 days. They are quick and easy and like a cheat, I guess. But anyway, that's it. Bye guys.